922, Big 550, KTRS. Let's go right in from the problems of Ferguson, which have accredited schools, to the Normandy School District, which is not accredited. And yet that debacle, Jane Duker, there's some new information going on. What's the latest with this whole Normandy School District stuff?
Well, I mean, the last that I've heard has been the lawsuits that are allowing these kids to transfer back.
Right.
But
the lawsuits were for the students who were involved with the lawsuit.
Correct.
Right. Not all the other ones.
Right. That's what's outrageous. I mean,
Right.
if you want to look at a systemic problem up in the Ferguson area, it's the inability of poor African-American children to get a quality education. And what happened was, after the governor vetoed the education bill this year, which would have allowed some provisions for some of these kids to transfer to other districts, DESE put in place a policy where they essentially made up a designation to not allow transfers anymore. Some of the parents of children filed suit, and the court ruled in favor of those 5 or 6 families. It said essentially that this
Under
designation,
the statute, nothing changed.
DESE made up this designation.
The law hasn't changed, but you
So they
can't go
can
back to the
transfer.
same school.
So then DESE says, well, that only applies to those 5 students.
Which is outrageous.
Which the Turner case didn't apply to all 5 students.
It's completely
Same
outrageous.
thing.
It is out. I mean, think about that for a second. You sue, and the courts say, yes, you're allowed. The law says you're allowed, but only to these 5 who sued.
Yeah.
Never in my
now
life heard
everyone
anything
else,
like that.
I need 500 other students to go file a lawsuit to allow them to transfer to other schools. It's just outrageous. I mean, look, at some point you tried something, it was found to be unlawful. Got to eat your
Well,
beans
but some of the school districts are saying we'll take all of them. Francis Howell's still saying we'll only take them if the courts allow.
Correct.
Well, but this is what it all comes down to is. And I understand the decision that they don't want to take all the money out of the Normandy district. They believe in community schools. I support that. I believe that it doesn't do any good to dismantle anchors in a community, which are the school districts. So what they're trying to prevent is all the money leaving with the kids. And so, but what needs to happen is if the school board.
But that's not what the law says.
I understand.
Well,
and so if the school board wants to keep the community schools, but yet follow the law, then they better get to the legislature and ask for money.
And there's a very interesting angle on that. So last year, if you remember, we had this discussion that Normandy School District is going to run out of money unless the General Assembly does a supplemental
because of the transfers,
budget because of the transfers. So the original number, and I'm going off the top of my head, I want to say it was like in the $5 to $6 million range to get them through the school year, and through the first semester of this school year. What was interesting, Rick Stream in the House actually helped pass that to initially get them the money. Then DESE kept coming back, winnowing that number down.
So they didn't need those.
So it actually got down to 1, because I'll bet you they had this plan in place the entire time to come up with an additional accreditation that wasn't on the book, so the students wouldn't be allowed to transfer. Hence, they don't need
the money.
Now they're coming back saying, well, we're going to run out of money by the end of the year if we let the students transfer.
I mean, I don't understand why they don't just say,
ready, willing, and able
this is what we want to do.
Bob Ramsey, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think the issue is the symptoms are so great that you do have to deal with those, but they're not the disease. And Jane, you talked about it first, having the education there. The problem is you got to fix the symptoms right now, because you can't just say, okay, we got to forget these kids and move on. You have to deal with them right now. But the real problem is, how do you fix that school district so that those kids will get the education they deserve?
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's the thing. There's a short-term issue, a medium-term, and a long-term. The short-term issue is you declared Normandy unaccredited. And so by law, these kids get to transfer. You broke it. You started it. You broke it. If you don't believe in transfers, then you need to get a bill out of the legislature, or you need to, or you need to follow the law. And so they decided to do neither. And so the problem comes, these kids who are the least culpable in the entire situation are whipsawed. If they had the courage to transfer, I'm not a big fan of transfers, but they had the courage, they did it. These kids get to get grandfathered. That's your short-term problem. You need to be fair to these kids and fix it.
And that's
now,
exactly.
See, but where is Jamel Nasheed and Antonio French on this outrage? Imagine the law says these kids are no longer trapped in these families failing school districts, and they're running to the most dangerous place in St. Louis is between Antonio French and an MSNBC camera to criticize Ferguson while these kids in Normandy are dying on a vine.
I mean, it's sad because these kids deserve that, and they are the least culpable. They should be allowed to finish the transfers they started. And if you I agree. If you want the school district to survive and you don't want to dismantle them through transfers, then you need to get a bill. You need to go out to the citizens. You need to go to your legislators. They need to take leadership and say, this is what the policy is going to be, and this is what we're doing.
Because with the school district like Normandy, you need a 3, 4, 5, 10-year plan. But in the course of implementing that plan, you can't ignore the generation of students that are there now.
Exactly.
And
they can't be lost.
And there is no viable alternative for the students that are there now other than to allow some sort of transfer or some sort of maybe dual accreditation for the seniors with the community colleges where they've got a job certificate in addition to their GED or something. But you need outside help for those students now and not just hide under a blanket.
The school board didn't pick the city of St. Louis or Kansas City to unaccredit it because that really would have whacked out all the districts. They picked Normandy. Normandy was the expensive.
It's a good point. There's no difference between the Normandy schools and Kansas City and St. Louis.
Absolutely. And nameless other districts in the state of Missouri. But they picked Normandy, and Normandy became the experiment to try to get a bill.
I'll submit to you there's a difference, but that's a discussion for another time.
That's John Deal. Bob Ramsey with us, Jane Duker. The board meeting continues on the Big 550 K.